Higher education, post-secondary education, or third-level education is an optional final stage of formal learning that occurs after secondary education, often delivered at universities, academies, colleges, seminaries, and institutes of technology. Higher education is also available through certain college-level institutions, including vocational schools, trade schools, and other career colleges that award academic degrees or professional certifications. Tertiary education at non-degree level is sometimes referred to as further education or continuing education as distinct from higher education. The right of access to higher education is mentioned in a number of international human rights instruments. The UN International Covenant on Economic, Social and Cultural Rights of 1966 declares, in Article 13, that higher education shall be made equally accessible to all, on the basis of capacity, by every appropriate means, and in particular by the progressive introduction of the free education. In Europe, Article 2 of the First Protocol to the European Convention on Human Rights, adopted in 1950, obliges all signatory parties to guarantee the right to education. In the days when few pupils progressed beyond primary education, the term higher education was often used to refer to secondary education, which can create some confusion. Overview: higher education is an educational level that follows a completion of a school providing a secondary education, such as a high school, secondary school, or gymnasium. Tertiary education is normally taken to include undergraduate and postgraduate education, as well as vocational education and training. Colleges, universities, and institutes of technology are the main institutions that provide tertiary education. Examples of institutions that provide post-secondary education are vocational schools, community colleges, independent colleges, and universities in the United States, the Institutes of Technical and Further Education in Australia, pre-university colleges in Quebec, and the IEKs in Greece. They are sometimes known collectively as tertiary institutions. Completion of a tertiary education program of study generally results in the awarding of certificates, diplomas, or academic degrees. Higher education includes teaching, research, exacting applied work, and social services activities of universities. Within the realm of teaching, it includes both the undergraduate level, and beyond that, graduate level. The latter level of education is often referred to as graduate school, especially in North America. Since World War II, developed and many developing countries have increased the participation of the age group who mostly studies higher education from the elite rate of up to 15% to the mass rate of 16 to 50%. In many developed countries, participation in higher education has continued to increase towards universal or, what Tro later called, open access, where over half of the relevant age group participate in higher education. Higher education is important to national economies, both as an industry, in its own right, and as a source of trained and educated personnel for the rest of the economy. College-educated workers have commanded a measurable wage premium and are much less likely to become unemployed than less educated workers. However, the admission of so many students of only average ability to higher education inevitably requires a decline in academic standards, facilitated by grade inflation. Also, the supply of graduates in many fields of study is exceeding the demand for their skills, which aggravates graduate unemployment and underemployment. Higher education in some countries, including the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, and Ireland, specifically refers to post-secondary institutions that offer associate's degrees, bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, education specialist degrees or Doctor of Philosophy degrees, or their equivalents, and also higher professional degrees in areas such as dentistry, law, medicine, optometry, pharmacology and veterinary medicine. Such institutions may also offer non-degree certificates. which indicate completion of a set of courses comprising a body of knowledge on a particular topic. But the granting of such certificates is not the primary purpose of the institutions. Tertiary education is not a term used in reference to post-secondary institutions in the United States or Canada. Entrance standards. Reading, mathematics, and writing demonstrated ability in reading, mathematics, and writing, as typically measured in the United States by the SAT or similar tests such as the ACT, have often replaced colleges' individual entrance exams, and is often required for admission to higher education. There is some question as to whether advanced mathematical skills or talent are in fact necessary for fields such as history, English, philosophy, or art. Types. The general higher education and training that takes place in a university, college, or institute of technology usually includes significant theoretical and abstract elements, as well as applied aspects. In contrast, the vocational higher education and training that takes place at vocational universities and schools usually concentrates on practical applications, with very little theory. In addition, professional level education is always included within higher education, and usually in graduate schools. Since many postgraduate academic disciplines are both vocationally, professionally, and theoretically research-oriented, such as in the law, medicine, pharmacy, dentistry, and veterinary medicine, a basic requirement for re-entry into these graduate-level programs is almost always a bachelor's degree. Although alternative means of obtaining entry into such programs may be available at some universities, requirements for admission to such high-level graduate programs is extremely competitive, and admitted students are expected to perform well. In the United States, there are large differences in wages and employment associated with different degrees. Medical doctors and lawyers are generally the highest-paid workers, and have among the lowest unemployment rates. Among undergraduate fields of study, science, technology, engineering, math, and business generally offer the highest wages and best chances of employment, while education, communication, and liberal arts degrees generally offer lower wages and a lower likelihood of employment. Liberal arts academic areas that are included within the liberal arts include environmental science, great books, history, languages including English, linguistics, literature, mathematics, music, philosophy, political science, psychology, religious studies, science, sociology and theater. Engineering. Teaching engineering is teaching the application of scientific, economic, social, and practical knowledge in order to design, build, maintain, and improve structures, machines, devices, systems, materials and processes. It may encompass using insights to conceive, model and scale an appropriate solution to a problem or objective. The discipline of engineering is extremely broad, and encompasses a range of more specialized fields of engineering, each with a more specific emphasis on particular areas of technology and types of application. Engineering disciplines include aerospace, biological, civil, chemical, computer, electrical, industrial, and mechanical. Performing arts. The performing arts differ from the plastic arts or visual arts, insofar as the former uses the artist's own body, face and presence as a medium, the latter uses materials such as clay, metal or paint, which can be molded or transformed to create a work of art. Performing arts institutions include circus schools, dance schools, drama schools and music schools. Plastic or visual arts. The plastic arts or visual arts are a class of art forms that involve the use of materials that can be molded or modulated in some way, often in 3 dimensions. Examples are painting, sculpture, and drawing, etc. Higher educational institutions in these arts include film schools and art schools. Vocational. Higher vocational education and training takes place at the non-university tertiary level. Such education combines teaching of both practical skills and theoretical expertise. Higher education differs from other forms of post-secondary education such as that offered by institutions of vocational education, which are more colloquially known as trade schools. Higher vocational education might be contrasted with education in a usually broader scientific field, which might concentrate on theory and abstract conceptual knowledge. Professional higher education. This describes a distinct form of higher education that offers a particularly intense integration with the world of work in all its aspects and at all levels of the overarching qualifications framework of the European higher education area. Its function is to diversify learning opportunities, enhance employability, offer qualifications and stimulate innovation for the benefit of learners and society. The intensity of integration with the world of work is manifested by a strong focus on application of learning. This approach involves combining phases of work and study, a concern for employability, cooperation with employers, the use of practice-relevant knowledge and use-inspired research. Examples of providers of professional higher education may include graduate colleges of architecture, business, journalism, law, library science, optometry, pharmacy, public policy, human medicine, professional engineering, podiatric medicine, scientific dentistry, K-12 education, and veterinary medicine. Statistics. A report titled Education at a Glance 2014, published by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development on 9 September 2014, revealed that by 2014, 84% of young people were completing upper secondary education over their lifetimes. In high-income countries, tertiary educated individuals were earning twice as much as median workers. In contrast to historical trends in education, young women were more likely to complete upper secondary education than young men. Additionally, access to education was expanding and growth in the number of people receiving university education was rising sharply. By 2014, close to 40% of people aged 25 to 34 were being educated at university. Recognition of studies. The Lisbon Recognition Convention stipulates that degrees and periods of study must be recognized in all signatory parties of the convention. As employers, universities may employ a number of people. Depending on the funding, a university typically hires one teacher per 3 to 25 students. According to the ideal of research university, the university teaching staff is actively involved in the research of the institution. In addition, the university usually also has dedicated research staff and a considerable support staff. Typically, to work in higher education as a member of the academic faculty, a candidate must first obtain a doctorate in an academic field. Although some lower teaching positions require only a master's degree, most of the administrative staff works in different administrative sections, such as student affairs. In addition, there may be central support units, such as a university library, which have a dedicated staff. The professional field involving the collection, analysis, and reporting of higher education data is called institutional research. Professionals in this field can be found at locations in addition to universities, e.g., state educational departments. Post-secondary institutions also employ graduate students in various assistantship roles. In the U.S., close to 50% of graduate students are employed as graduate assistants at some point. These apprenticeship-like positions provide opportunities for students to gain experience in, and exposure to, professional roles in exchange for funding of their academic programs. Recent controversy. From the early 1950s to the present, more and more people in the United States have gone on to pursue degrees or certificates of higher education. However, this has sparked some debate in recent years, as some advocates say that a degree is not what it was once worth to employers. To clarify, some advocates say that the financial costs that universities require from their students has gone up so dramatically that it is leaving many students in debt of loans of an average of $33,000. Advocates advise parents to not send their children to college unless these children are committed to pursuing their future education. An increasing number of freshmen every year drop out of their prospective programs or do not possess the maturity to have a balanced life away from home. However, statistics from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics indicate that the college-educated are employed at a rate nearly twice that of the national average when compared to high school graduates. The type of degree one pursues will determine how safe and prosperous his/her career path is, because in a study published by the Pew Charitable Trusts, it shows that among Americans ages 21 to 24, the drop in employment and income was much steeper among people who lacked a college degree. Among those whose highest degree was a high school diploma, only 55% had jobs even before the downturn, and that fell to 47% after it. For young people with an associate's degree, the employment rate fell from 64 to 57. Bachelor's degree slipped from 69 to 65. Professor Lisa Kahn of Yale stated that for people who graduated from college in the most recent recession, they were in a better position to gain better security than others. Ultimately, a survey, the Great Jobs and Great Lives Gallup Purdue Index report, released in May, found the type of college that students attend, and in some cases even majors they choose, have very little to do with their overall success and well-being later in life. What matters more, the index found, is feeling supported and making emotional connections during school.